Hello, everybody. Welcome to Service to Software. This is the second season of our podcast. I'm your new host, stepping into some big shoes to fill. The goal of this podcast is not a commercial for Code Platoon whatsoever. We do that enough on social media. This is a goal to really understand the process in terms of transitioning out of the military and providing supports and resources during and after the military community's transition. And that includes the people that we serve, military veterans, military spouse, and dependents 18 plus. Specifically for this topic, we are talking about apprenticeships. And the topic itself is called Apprenticeship for the Win. We have a strong guest with us. I took some notes. The gentleman's name here is Zachary Blackburn, a longtime friend of mine, a Marine Corps veteran who has transitioned into tech through an apprenticeship opportunity with an organization known as Affirm. They're a financial services company out of San Francisco. He's been there ever since and is currently a software engineer L5. I have no idea what that is. We'll allow him to introduce himself and discuss Affirm L5. And then we have three basic questions surrounding apprenticeships and that opportunity. So without further ado, Zach, pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thank you, Rich. Yeah, the software engineer L5, it's interesting how they label these titles. I'm pretty much a software engineer too, but I like to say L5 because that sounds, a lot, a lot more impressive. I don't understand where the five comes into play, to be quite honest. But basically a software engineer too. And yeah, came here from Code Platoon. Um, and then came to Code Platoon directly from the Marine Corps, was still active duty when I attended through Skill Bridge. Uh, and it's been awesome. I've been to San Francisco a few times, but I'm actually located in Kentucky. Fortunately, way cheaper to live here in my home Commonwealth. But yeah, awesome to be here. Excited to talk.
Before I ask the three core questions, can you give us a little bit of background about your experience in the military, just to so that the listeners could hear more about and maybe see the connection that they may have with you and your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was an 0671, which is a data systems administrator in the Marine Corps for 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines, which, depending on which unit you're with, it makes you like a fancy internet version of a radio operator, which is essentially how we operated. Um, and originally from Eastern Kentucky, very small rural community, and it had kept those values along the way as I went into the Marine Corps and then into Code Platoon. I actually had no previous coding experiences. I think if you count MySpace, which I'm aging myself a bit there, if you count MySpace, I did some HTML and CSS editing to make my MySpace account look pretty good in 7th grade, but did not do any coding in the Marine Corps or anything similar to that,
Yeah.
even though I worked with technology.
You're saying you're aging yourself, and I remember myself being in a much higher grade than seventh grade when I had T-Pain Bartender playing in the background in my mind.
Yeah, that was
No.
an all-time classic. And then my mom found my MySpace profile, and I had to really work on the songs that I had featured there. That was
Oh, that's hilarious. Uh, so just curious, you mentioned that you went through Code Platoon. Once again, I'm going to challenge myself this entire season to try to limit the amount of times that I say the company I work for, because once again, this is to try to provide resources beyond our organization. And so one of the questions I have is why an apprenticeship? Before landing an apprenticeship opportunity, what did you know about a program like that, the process? Were there any doubts in your mind? Anything that you hesitated on?
Yeah, that's a excellent question. And I want to be frank, I'm not a walking advertisement for Code Platoon. I'm not, but it has been very crucial in my life where I am now. And I've recommended a lot of my former Marines, my brother-in-law, a lot of people to it. But yeah, so prior to attending the boot camp or even applying for the apprenticeship, I had um, no context on how people got jobs in this industry whatsoever. Um, Going into the apprenticeship, everything that I knew was really from you, Rich. It was, and how I learned about how people that come from non-traditional tech backgrounds, didn't go to the elite CS school, get into bigger tech companies that are used to hiring that type of talent. Um, and then even throughout the apprenticeship program, I still had doubts about myself and everything that was going into it. But our apprenticeship served a different role than what your typical internship might do. Where an internship, if you're in college or you're getting your master's, you go into an internship for a short amount of time, and then you hope that once you graduate, your experience from your internship can lead to a job with said company or another. Our apprenticeship was 6 months, and the goal was for you to come in post boot camp, self-taught, spend 6 months working on a project, get acclimated with the environment, our tech stack, etc., and transition into a full-time role, which is a lot different than the internship. And I think the benefit that comes to an apprenticeship comes from you're usually taking in candidates that have some life experience in other realms of industry, and things that they can kind of bring to the table that maybe a new grad from a university don't bring. Um, and throughout the apprenticeship, before applying, after finishing it and transitioning to a full-time role, and even now, I think the biggest doubt I had led to imposter syndrome. Um, my coworkers.
I was curious. You said imposter syndrome. Just for viewers and listeners, what is that?
Yeah, that's a good question. My personal definition, and I'm not sure if this aligns with a dictionary definition of the term. My personal definition would be you don't belong in the position you're in, and someone's going to catch you at some point, and then everything you've worked for and all your dreams, et cetera, is going to kind of go down the toilet. Um, and I think coming from a non-traditional background, a non-elite education. Um, you work with and learn from some incredibly intelligent people in this industry, especially here at Affirm. My coworkers, my team specifically, are some of the most intelligent individuals I've ever met. Um, Almost too smart, like the engineering too smart. Like if you have, like we have, marketers that are really intelligent too, but if you get a group of them together and you separate them, you can tell the engineers, I guess, from their social cues. And a feeling that I don't belong in the same room was a doubt I struggled with continuously.
Did the apprenticeship help you? It actually funnels into the next question, which is how did the apprenticeship support you in giving you that space to shine and showcase your skills?
Yep, another excellent question. And yeah, the apprenticeship definitely supported me. And I think it's an expectation when you have somebody come in from a non-traditional tech background into a role that's almost entirely comprised of elite engineers, that if you are an HR manager, you're seeing over this program, or you're a good engineering manager, you expect that that might be the case for those candidates, and those apprentices. Um, I can't speak to what a firm does as a whole systematically for handling stuff like that, but I know my team in particular, and the program did a very good job of assisting with that. I think a big thing is ensuring that I knew it was okay to ask questions, and was encouraged to ask questions, that there's no dumb question, that a new grad coming in from UT Austin or Carnegie Mellon, is going to have the same questions. They're not familiar with the tech stack either. And it is okay to ask that. And then giving me a big project to kind of make my own and finish and see the impact, uh, and shouting out that impact to the company, I think was really, really helpful. It made me feel like, okay, I know what I'm doing for the most part, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. I'm actually going to revert back to the imposter syndrome comment and then mix it in with you saying it was okay to ask questions. I imagine, even myself, early on in my career, I always felt asking questions might shine a light on that I'm not qualified or I don't know something. So, how did you combat that? If you're already feeling that imposter syndrome, how were you comfortable enough to raise your hand and how'd you go about that?
Well, to be honest, at first I wasn't. I even if I was encouraged to ask questions a lot. If I thought it was a simple question, I would spend way too much trying to figure out the answer on my own. And I think there's a good balance. I think, especially with the AI tools that we have today, you can find out so much so easy. But for like code or a company specific code or questions, I would try to figure it out. And that would become a time sink. I spent 2 hours trying to find a simple answer because I didn't understand the whole context of what I was even asking instead of going to somebody and figuring it out in 30 seconds. And I, despite how much everybody at my company and my team specifically were very welcoming and saying, "Hey, ask questions if you don't know." Um, it ended up being the time sink that got me to asking questions. It's like you're trying to figure out how to get somewhere and you don't want to Google the directions because you think you know how to figure it out. You drive around for 2 hours, eventually you're just going to Google the address to that Denny's that you're going to or wherever it is.
I haven't heard Denny's in a long time. I can go for a big Grand Slam breakfast right about now.
Gosh, that sounds so good.
Well, it's so, in my own perspective, and then tell me if you think I'm off base here, is you go around not wanting to put the spotlight on you because you might not know something. But if you ask the question, get the right answer, and now you know the answer, that's a win instead of not knowing, guessing, getting it wrong, and then not knowing the answer when you have to go back again and ask the same question.
Yeah,
I think that's the pain point. It's like ask me, but remember it, write it down. I have a terrible memory. I'm writing stuff down right now.
that's an excellent point. I think I had a senior engineer who taught me a lot when I first came. His name's Matt. He told me like day three, he said you can ask whatever question you want. The important thing is not to ask it twice. And so I started taking notes, making tabs, save tabs to try to because there's a lot of information to absorb. If you're listening to this and you're learning how to code right now, and you think when I say don't ask twice, that means you got to memorize everything. Not the case. If I'm doing a for loop right now, if I'm writing a for loop in Python, the language I use every day, maybe I'll Google it. Maybe how do I loop through this dictionary? Which is, that's code talk. But if you're learning how to code, that never goes away. There's just so much information to absorb, but having the reference to it's important.
And by the way, if he said that to me, I would say, so I would ask 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 questions to get to two, because I mean, it's repetition, right? And you might have to ask the same question. It's more along the lines of if it's a key aspect, ask those questions, get the resources in your corner on a piece of paper and refer to it before asking me again, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish. It's like give me the answer, you provided it to me for the day. Link me to the doc so I know where to find it and it's the same aspect there. So uh yeah,
Go ahead.
I think that being able to ask those questions, also being able to retain where the answer came from on key aspects is a big deal. Um, yeah.
Before we jump to the third question, and for the listeners, I'm trying to stick to core questions, roughly 3 to 4, 5 questions. But I kind of want to get a little bit deeper dive. And I know you can only speak for the perspective from a firm standpoint, but can you walk us through the process getting into the apprenticeship, how long it was? Because I know certain apprenticeships are shorter or longer and have different phases. What was the scope of your apprenticeship?
Yeah. So applying for it, and again, I'm not a walking ad. This is me just
This is sponsored by Code Platoon.
yeah. Yeah. I have a Code Platoon shirt on. I'm like, yeah, they just made me get this Code Platoon tattoo on my forehead. And it was No, I didn't even know the apprenticeship was a thing. I thought I had a job locked up doing government contracting engineering. And I remember being told what the pay was for that and thinking that's crazy. I was a corporal of Marines, it I come from a very poor background. It's not like I had any idea of what tech, really pays once you get fully into the industry. But I was just trying to beg and plead my way into this government contracting job. And I kind of put all my eggs in one basket. And you had reached out and you were like, hey, this company Affirm is still taking apprenticeship applications if you want me to put it in. And then I was like, I don't know. I still think I just don't want to jinx it. And you're like, I'm just going to put in the application. And then they called me, did a recruiter screen, and the interview process, and this is true for any major tech company, uh, is pretty stringent. It was a phone call, a screen phone call. I got a take home coding exam with a time limit. And then I had a follow-up interview to build on that code. I had a behavioral interview. And then I think I walked through a project, which I made a Bigfoot tracker. Watch out in the Pacific Northwest. That's where he
That where he
is.
lives?
Yeah, he's definitely there.
He's there. All right.
Yeah, but so it was pretty a pretty stringent process. And again, not an ad. If you don't consider my Code Platoon tattoo, I was forced to get, not an ad. But I had a lot of training on technical interviews and building my resume in the right manner. Uh, to walk into the interviews not necessarily confident that I'm going to pass them because they are challenging, but confident that I have the resources to pass them, if that makes sense. Um, and I just try to do my due diligence. I did the take home exam, got it done. I think it was a 2 hour limit. I got it done with like an hour and 58 minutes.
For those of people that are thinking about going into coding, what do you mean take home exam? Is it recorded? Is it what is it specifically?
Oh yeah, good question. So we have there's different variations of this. You can be sent a file that has code on it that you need to pull down, and you build on that code and send it back, or it might be through the browser. There could be a program that like times you and records your screen, and you try to finish a coding problem. And that's specifically what mine was. It was I was sent a link to, it was like a leak code-esque problem, but more in the sense of how to how to fix code that might be in production. Um, and side note on that, we tailor apprenticeship questions specifically for what you would learn at a boot camp, not like some crazy data structure leak code hard question for apprentices, because you spend time learning how to code in a boot camp, not how to get the best time and memory out of your code executing. But that was side point there. Sorry for rambling.
Yeah, we're just gonna cut that out after, in the edit.
Yeah. Um, so the take home exam for me, it was building up on some React feature. You get 2 hours to do it, and then you send it back. You make sure your tests run, um, and then once the time is up, you save it, and then they can review it from there. Uh, Once I finished that coding exam, I copied all my code down locally and then worked on it like 6 more times to try to figure out what was the optimal solution for this if it wasn't what I did. Uh, which worked out well because it turned out my second portion technical interview was building on what I had already written down.
Oh, interesting. And then you said something. Were all the coding challenges that you received, whether it's one, two, three, did you get them all right? Because some people think they have to get every single one right, and I know from hearing from others that you don't necessarily need to get all your coding challenges correct to be considered moving on.
Yeah. So I think there's like there are core requirements for how we do it. There are core requirements for this part they have to get right. And then there's extra credit, these other requirements that you don't necessarily need to get to be considered, but you have to build on those and understand why you didn't get them in your second portion. So I don't think I did the best job. In fact, I know I didn't, because I was able to optimize it really fast post doing the take home problem alone in my house. You get a little timer on you and you get a little nervous and you're like, oh man, I just gotta get this done. And then it was like 10 minutes later, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I could have done this and it would have been so much better. And then the first question I was asked my next interview was, how could you do this better? Which worked out. But yeah, you don't have to do perfect. Uh, just expect to follow up on what you could have done better.
Interesting. Now, you got through the interview process, you got an offer. Um, what was what was the process moving forward after that? Walk us through, and you don't need to go step by step, A through Z, but just give the listeners an understanding of what to expect in certain apprenticeships on terms of are you put with a team initially, and then do you move around team to team? How does that go specifically with a firm?
Yeah. So with Affirm, how we've done the apprenticeship in the past, uh, and for me specifically, a team says, "Hey, we are going to bring in another engineer. We need to make headcount here, and we are willing to take an apprentice." And then it goes from there. I don't have any inclination of how those processes get started or finished, and then it ends up you're interviewing apprentices for your team, and the team is told, hey, this is what the apprenticeship is, and this is how you can support them, and then you're expected in 6 months to have a full-time employee as long as they did good.
So
um,
it was a 6 month window for the apprenticeship program. And then they
yeah.
decide based on your performance and headcount, right? Whether they extend an offer to you.
Yeah, uh I think that the head count factor is made when the apprenticeship opens up. So
Okay.
the assumption is made they're going to go on full time. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste of everybody's time.
True. True.
If you are bringing them in and don't expect to have them full time. When I went through my apprenticeship, I think there was 12 apprentices, and we all stayed on full time.
Oh, awesome. That's a great conversion rate, 12 for 12. So within that 6 months, did you bounce around to teams or did you stay in your team?
I stayed in my team. I believe the expectation is to uh, same as if you were to hire a software engineer one for your team. You're essentially a software engineer one. You're just getting paid hourly, and until you kind of hit uh, what I call a J curve, which I can build on that later. But you're paid the hourly rate as you get used to the industry, and then 6 months in, it's expected you should be acclimated to be a full-time employee for that team that specifically wanted you as an apprentice. And of course, you can always change teams. I haven't looked into what the process is at a firm, so I can't speak on it, but I know we're allowed to.
Smart move. See, he doesn't want to go anywhere, firm. See? Yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah. I
smart
don't
move.
want to. I love my team. I'm on the qualifications engineering team. Wouldn't want to be with anybody else.
So you go through the 6 months and just from your perspective, was this, let's say you didn't get an offer, was it still valuable in your eyes if you didn't get an offer?
Yeah, I think I would have been extremely disappointed, and it would have been a little butthurt. I probably would have been like, "This is a waste of time." Like the first 2 weeks post not getting an offer, if I did hypothetically. Uh, but in all actuality, the experience would have been incredibly beneficial. Uh, Seeing how code gets deployed in a production environment, seeing how pull requests work in a kind of a high speed tech company. The project I was able to work on and all the tools that I learned, things that I'd never heard of in my entire life, that I was able to get acclimated to in that 6 months. I think if I were trying to go into another apprenticeship or get a level one role somewhere else, it would have been invaluable to add to my resume and as a learning experience.
And I asked you, and I didn't prompt you on that because there's something that I wanted to have people resonate. And then people that don't know me, I'm the head of career services for Code Platoon. So I'm always trying to show recent graduates and our return alumni, if they're looking for support, that any type of experience is a resume builder, right? And so let's say, unfortunately, you weren't extended that opportunity. You still have 6 months of work experience, which will give you a leverage up on the people just entering the workforce without a resume building opportunity.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that you said that because I couldn't agree more. And by the way, I'm with you, Zach. You go through all this, anybody listening, you go through a program and you don't get extended an offer, I would definitely feel hurt too,
Yeah.
but it's a step in the right direction.
And I will say, I was super anxious for no reason about not getting an offer because and again, I'm only speaking on my experience. I don't know how the other apprentices felt while at a firm. My experience, I was given feedback consistently. I was told how I can improve and what I'm doing really well. Was never ever given an indication that I wouldn't be getting a full-time offer. That everything was a-okay from my team's end, and I still was like, I can't squander this opportunity. Like I am messing up so bad. And they're like, no, no, you're not. That again, that goes into the imposter syndrome and
Yeah.
the anxiety, but it's such a it one it's so different from the military, working for a tech company based out of San Francisco, fully remote, and all the benefits and stuff, and the culture, I guess. Um, but it is an opportunity. I was making more as an apprentice than I'd ever made in my entire life. And my wife and I were considering having kids at some point, and we were wanting, we had just bought a house. Um, and people say you can never do anything just for the money. You have to love it. Not true. I mean, I do enjoy software engineering, but at some point your salary gets high enough that you get to take care of your family, and the flexibility and the benefits are so good. Even if I hated this job, the benefits and pay are so good. I could never imagine not providing for my family with it. So I want to go on the record. I don't think it's true. You have to truly love what you do. You just gotta love the benefits. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I could easily argue with you, but also as long as you have guardrails for your mental health and things like that, I completely agree with you at some point, especially when you
yeah.
put your family first. I only have two dogs, Golden Retriever fan club member, by the way. So, by the way, they are expensive. Maybe I do need a third or fourth job. Um, Before we jump into the final question and then closing, I would like to hear, do you have any recommendations for people that are considering apprenticeships, things that you would recommend that they study up on, look into before even applying or while they're awaiting a decision?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I would say if you are in the process of applying, one big thing, keep working on projects. Just have a showcase of things that you can do, even if they're simple. I think I was making Twitter bots and Slack bots, and uh, doing various things like that as I waited through the interview process for my apprenticeship. It helped boost my resume and what my GitHub profile looked like, but it also kept me on my toes. So as I interviewed, I would be uh, acclimated to the code. A big thing that I would like to hit on is AI. Um, there are some views that you shouldn't use AI if you're learning how to code, because you aren't really learning the meat of things. You're just learning how AI works. And I think in the context of, if you're just taking the question and plugging in AI and not learning anything at all, that's true. But companies now, uh, from my point of view, are shifting towards utilizing AI extensively, and not to replace software engineers, but to increase their productivity. With Cursor, ChatGPT, even Notion AI, there are so many tools available that help increase your productivity, that companies are going to look for engineers that know how to leverage AI. Not just that you can do the coding, but that you can do the coding on top of utilizing AI to make it faster and more efficient, um, and to assist. So if you are of the mindset that AI is going to replace software engineers, I mean, maybe in 50 years, I couldn't get AI to write a test function for me right now that is purely proper. On the same note, um, if you have the mindset that you shouldn't use AI at all because it's taking away from your learning, it's not true. It can break things down for you. It can break problems down for you. To help you better understand the context of them. And I think companies are going to look for, and maybe even start asking interviews, how do you utilize AI? How are you using these tools that are available to you, to increase your learning, increase your productivity? So don't shy away from it, but don't be too reliant on it.
That's an interesting perspective in these times when I hear some scares about, eating up the market for entry level tech. So it's interesting to hear from you, a boot camp grad, somebody who's actively in the mix in the industry. Uh, I'm curious. Um, when you say that. Like I only use ChatGPT to proofread my emails because I can't spell for anything. Um, so how do you stay on top of those trends? Are there things that you're leveraging right now?
Yeah, that's another great question. So Affirm as a whole is leaning on AI big time. They recognize how much more efficient that the tools can make their engineers, their employees in general, and we have access to a suite of AI tools like Cursor and Notion AI, Gemini, and I leverage Cursor every day. Cursor helps me clean my code, get it written, helps me analyze SQL queries and analyze functions to make them more efficient. Um, you know, it does such a good job of searching through and giving me the context that I want. If you can prompt it correctly, if you just say, "Hey, can you write this function, please?" It's not going to do anything for you. Um, Gemini, I write a lot of documentation. Gemini is awesome. What I usually do is I'll write a doc and then I'll ask Gemini to rewrite it as if the audience is for a senior engineer or staff engineer. Makes me look so much smarter. And then I'll add a few typos to make people think I actually typed it.
You shouldn't have gave that secret away. Now they Hey, in closing, I wanted to ask, can people get a hold of you? And if you're open to that, what is some of your social media contacts? And then if you wouldn't mind, just I should have said it in the beginning, but Affirm, the only thing I think about, and I know they're much bigger than this, like they are the layaway go-to, right? Aren't they similar, like if you pay as you go? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, yeah. So we work with merchants, and they don't have to be an Affirm merchant to do paying for or installment loan based payment systems for I think Shopify and Amazon probably our two biggest companies. We are definitely number one in America. And this is all coming from me. This is not me speaking on behalf of a firm. We're just
Another commercial, man, you're
yeah,
walking
yeah. You should
billboard.
see my
You have enough room
Affirm
for
tattoo. It's right
yeah.
beside my Code Platoon tattoo.
You beat me to it. I was like, you had enough room on your forehead?
And yeah, so if you go to Target or Amazon, you can see, check your purchasing power with the firm or buy now, pay later with the firm. And really, we operate as an excellent alternative, hopefully replacement to credit cards, so you're not ballooning yourself in debt. But this is me speaking on my personal view of a firm, not as a representative of a firm.
Hey, Zach, we're near the end. I want to thank you so much. You truly are a friend who I've met throughout this program at Code Platoon. I hope we stay close friends. Hope to see you soon. Grab a drink. Can anybody connect with you on LinkedIn possibly or any other?
Yeah, yeah. Look me up on LinkedIn. I think my LinkedIn is Zachary Dash Blackburn. I'll just give it a little double check here
Yeah,
really quick.
double check it. And then
Uh,
maybe a landline. We can call you during dinner, anything like that.
yeah, yeah. Come ring my doorbell when my baby's
Yeah, yeah,
born. Here's my address and my mother's maiden name.
yeah.
Yeah, it is Zachary Dash Blackburn, Zachary. Feel free to connect with me. To be completely honest, I'm not on there as much as I should be. But with this going out, I will try to be responsive to anybody that reaches out with any questions.
Zachary Blackburn at Affirm, an apprenticeship program participant, now a mid and definitely soon to be senior engineer, correct?
Hopefully, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, I mean, you're being recorded, affirmed. I don't know if you guys are going to listen to this, repost this. Man does great work. He got a tattoo for you. Hey,
Yeah.
Zach, you have a great day.
Thank you. You too, Rich. Bye.